Welcome to Ponchatoula Live, the show where we make it easy for you to connect with the people of Ponchatoula. I'm your host, Parker Layrisson, and I could not be more excited about today because I'm interviewing one of my favorite people in the world. This is a literal superwoman. She is an incredible profession and professional who has spanned careers in two professions. She's a mom and she's a minister and she's a leader of the cancer care ministry at First Baptist Church of Ponchatoula. You probably have already heard of Kim Russell-Kea. Kim, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Parker. I'm so happy to be here this evening.
Well, I meant what I said. I've been really looking forward to this interview. It has been an honor of mine to serve under you in the cancer care ministry and to watch you and learn from you these last few years. So I can't wait to get into talking about that with you, especially the super exciting event that's coming up that is your brainchild, Ponchatoula's first ever cancer care life walk, which is coming up very soon, November 2nd, 9:30 in the morning at Kiwanis Park. I'm going to ask you about much more there in a bit, but kind of before we dig into that, I want the folks to get to know you. So if you don't mind, let's kick things off with you just telling us a little bit about yourself.
Okay. I grew up in Amite and went to Amite High School there. And I was actually adopted by my grandparents, my maternal grandparents. And that was a blessing. Wow. So I grew up in First Baptist Church of Amite, and my grandfather developed cancer when I was about 13. And, you know, that was so long ago. Things just aren't like they are today in the
medical
world
was way behind.
Care. And so, you know, as a young teen, you know, I didn't know a lot about it. And so I lost my grandfather, who I was the apple of his eye, and he was great. He was the best. And so I lost him when I was 14, and it was just my grandmother and I.
That had to be so tough. I mean, you know, one, to have the transition of adoption in the first place, and then to have this grandfather that you clearly love so much, and you're the apple of his eye. What was that like? How did you get through something that tough?
Well, honestly, I attribute a lot of my accounting background to my papa, because he is the one that would come home every evening with this little money bag, and he's the one that would, you know, I'd have to stack the nickels and the quarters and the pennies, and he taught me how to count money.
You were his little assistant.
Yes, I was, from a very young age. And
so for folks that don't know, we'll get into your career a bit later. You were an accountant, and then you were a math teacher. So he helped you hone both of those careers.
That's right.
And accounting go hand in hand. That's really neat.
You know, I did. I loved him so much, and they were so good to me. And so I'm very blessed that they raised me. I really am. And
adoption itself is such a blessing. My father's adopted, and so it's not lost on me that there would be no Layrisson boys of Ponchatoula running around if Inez and Louis Layrisson had not driven down to Catholic Charities in New Orleans and adopted Eddie Layrisson. You know, his only brother was also adopted, and we have a real small family. He had a cousin, my late godfather, Jackie Vaughn, who many folks knew was a local referee who made it to the NFL. He was adopted too. And he was, while a first cousin, my dad only had two cousins. So Uncle Jack was like a brother. So adoption's always had this big outsized role in my family. I married my wife. She's got an adopted sister. It's so important, you know, and I'm glad that you were blessed by finding that, you know, that path to loving parents and your grandparents. But it had to be hard on your grandmother too. So what was it like at that point at 14? Like you said, it's just you and your grandmother.
It was very hard. My grandmother she never worked outside the home, and she was sickly, not in good health at all. And I was in high school, starting out in high school, and honestly, we were very poor. We just didn't have a lot. I worked every Saturday. And, you know,
where did you work? Because if you started, you know, that's like, you know, either 8th grade or 9th grade, you hit the ground running.
Well, okay, we're going to go back. Whenever I first lived with my grandparents, they lived in a duplex with a couple right next door, Mr. Leon and Miss Santa Vulo, who owned Leon's shoe store in Amite. Many people probably remember that shoe store. And they, they treated me as if I was their child as well. So I was doubly spoiled. Yes, I was. And so
being spoiled is something I can relate to, and so can my kids.
It's great. So, eventually, Mama and Papa moved. We had our own house, which we rented from another couple that I dearly loved, Mr. Ritchie and Miss Jane Helmers, who owned the People's Rexall Pharmacy in Amite.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
Way back in the day. And Mama and Miss Jane were best friends. So I hung around with a lot of elderly people. Okay.
Yeah. Well, and you're kind of proving up that concept of it takes a village, right? Because your grandparents are established members of the community. They're church going, good people. And other folks of similar ilk are there for y'all in these kind of times that are tough. That's impressive.
Yes. And, we had what we needed, but I used to tell the kids at school, they thought they had, such hard times when it really wasn't that hard. And I would say, listen, once a month, we got a Social Security check. My treat was a hamburger and a chocolate shake from the little drive-in Amite once a month.
Well, that was going to be my question. Where'd you go? So what was the little drive-in? I'm not familiar with the old. Master Chef is as far back as I go on the Amite scene. So I'm sure this was
there wasn't a lot. Okay. There was not a lot to do in Amite. Yeah. Sullivan's was the happening place. Sullivan's drive-in.
Neat.
And, that was just the place to go. They had delicious roast beef. You can get anything at Sullivan's. It was all good, whatever you wanted.
Yeah.
So, that was our treat once a month.
Well, you're talking to a guy who worked his way through high school at Hi-Ho for 4 years, as did my brother Bree and my brother Louie.
Yes.
And so we appreciate a good locally owned food place. That's cool that you kind of had that as a treat.
Yes.
Well, you come from this background, growing up in the church, growing up with strong role models in your grandparents. But like you mentioned, humble beginnings, I think you said you were poor. Eventually you would go on to great success that required a lot of education to get there. How did you make that transition? How, to leave Amite, to go off to get educated? Kind of tell us about that next chapter in life.
Well, my high school sweetheart, whom I dated for 3 years, we ended up getting married at a very early age. I was 18 and he was 19, Lee Russell. And my grandmother had always said, she wanted God to let her live long enough to see me taken care of. And that always just touched me so much.
Yeah.
And she passed away 4 days after we married. Wow. So, yes.
So God got her right across that finish line, and then he brought her home. He said, that's all what you needed to see. Wow, that's powerful.
Yes. So I'm so thankful for that, and that God honored that request for her. Yeah. And we ended up moving to Hammond. We had a little apartment, and I went to Southeastern. I was valedictorian of my high school class.
Oh, congratulations. I'm married to a valedictorian, so it's fun to have smart women in your life.
Yay, go Brandy.
Yeah, that's neat. Well, she was just right down the road from you in Independence. So another good football school up there.
I remember those games against Independence. Yes. And I got a grant to go to college, because we didn't have a lot of money.
Right.
And I worked my whole way through college, just like many people do. I had several different jobs. I did work on campus, and I worked in the controller's office and in the payroll department for a while.
Well, that was probably a good fit after that accounting background through your grandfather, right?
Yes, absolutely. And that was my major. Yeah. Accounting was my major.
So did you have any jobs along the way? Because we all take all these jobs, and I'm not asking you to call out a specific place by name or or but any specific kind of nightmare job or nightmare boss. I always love looking backwards to those early year jobs, because some of us are blessed to work in a place that's just great. Like I did at High Hope for 4 years, and you get a great boss and a great company, and it all works out. But I know through my brothers and my friends, sometimes it can go really wrong, and those are the more interesting stories. So were there any kind of nightmare jobs along the way?
Well, my senior year of high school, I was in COE, Cooperative Office Education. And that's where you went to school half a day and you worked half a day. But what a lot of people, especially this younger generation, doesn't know is back then the town of Amite shut down on Wednesdays at noon. Basically, business is closed. What? Yes.
What was the thought behind that? Was that I haven't heard of such a thing before.
I was too young to know or care at the time.
You were just glad to be getting off a half day?
I just knew I didn't have to go to work Wednesday afternoon. So we all headed to the creek, right? That was the place. But I had to work half a day on Saturday mornings.
Oh. Okay.
And I worked for a finance company. And what I did was, basically stuff in solicitation. It wasn't anything great. It was pretty boring.
Just paper pushing kind of stuff.
Yeah, it was not my favorite job. But
because you're intellectual, so I'm sure you wanted to kind of scratch that itch and flex those mental muscles, if you will.
Yes.
That wouldn't seem like the right fit for you. So you go to college, you called it a grant. As a valedictorian, I think we should call it an academic scholarship, right? Valedictorians don't go to, they typically go to school for free. In fact, when Brandy graduated, her grades were so good, Southeastern or the state paid her. And then, of course, she was post-tops, but they paid her to go to school. So you do that, but you don't go straight into education. You go into accounting, if I recall, right?
Yes.
So
I got a degree in accounting.
You and your husband are living in Hammond. You get a degree in accounting, and kind of what happens next?
Well, Lee is working. He loved outdoors. He went to work for TL James, and I worked and finished college. And when I graduated in about 3.5 years because I went every summer.
Impressive.
And so I graduated in December, and that January I started working. I had an interview with the Office of the Legislative Auditor in Baton Rouge, and they hired me right out of college to become an auditor. And so I began auditing governmental agencies. I had the privilege of auditing your dad when he was sheriff.
Oh, really?
Yes, I audited the sheriff's office, the local.
I hope he was nice to you, because being audited is never fun. So I hope he was kind.
Most people think that, but they really do treat auditors well because they want a good report. I mean, you got to be nice to your auditors.
Yeah, right.
They would feed us well. I do remember your dad at the end. He took us out for a wonderful lunch.
Oh, yeah, sounds like Dad. He loves to eat. We all do.
Yeah. He did. He took us all out for a nice lunch, and it was a nice time.
There's a reason my dad was the first and only sheriff to get elected 6 times and to go out with a landslide, because he probably wisely surmised that his auditor lived in his parish, and he knew he had to get reelected, and he wanted your vote. So I'm very proud of my dad and my brother. They've won 12 elections in a row by big numbers, and I think you've just given us a little window into why. But that's a cute story.
No.
So you do the auditing thing. Eventually, you're going to switch gears and go into education and become a teacher. How did that come about? When did you start getting an inkling that maybe you weren't going to finish your career in auditing, but rather seek another path?
Well, I ended up leaving the legislative auditor's office. I had my first child, so I was traveling a good bit, and it was just hard to leave a baby for so long. And so I ended up getting a job at the Tangipahoa Parish School Board, and I was an accountant there for about 2.5 years. And an opening came up at Southeastern at the university in the controller's office, which was where I had done some of my time as a student worker. And so I went there for the interview, and I got the position for assistant controller. And so I was at Southeastern for almost 8 years. And that's when, by that time I had 3 children, all fairly
Three
young.
beautiful girls, right?
3 beautiful girls.
So would you mind?
Absolutely.
We're gonna pause on the professional question. We'll circle back to it,
Okay.
but since you mentioned your 3 girls, tell us
Mhm.
about your 3 girls. I've had the privilege of meeting a couple of them. They're wonderful. We go to
They
church with
are.
some of them. Tell us about them if you don't mind.
Okay. Amanda's my oldest,
Hmm.
and she is an attorney. She works for a judge and clerks at the First Circuit Court of Appeal
That's
in Baton
impressive.
Rouge, and we're
Hmm.
very proud of her.
I bet that's for
And
the folks that don't know. That's a very prized job. It's tough to get. You have to
Mhm,
really be on top of your game. They don't
mhm.
open up hardly ever because the folks that get that job stay there 30 years at a time. So that's impressive. Yeah. So off to a good
Yeah.
start.
Yes, and she's very good at what she does.
I
She
bet. I bet.
takes a lot of pride in her work,
Hmm.
and she loves all of her judges. She's clerked for several judges. In fact, she clerked for Ernie Drake when he was
Oh,
with the
neat.
First
Yeah.
Circuit, right here from Ponchatoula.
Yeah.
So she loved Judge Drake so
Judge Drake
much.
was great. We called him Father Time when he was on the district bench because he
Mhm.
loved that nickname. He was kind of famous for giving criminal convict when they got convicted, they got long
Mhm.
sentences from Father Time. And
Yeah.
but he was fair, I mean, he would
Oh
give
yes.
you a chance to win if the evidence was in your
Hmm.
favor. So that's neat. So
And
your oldest is an
that's my
attorney, and then
oldest. And
Brooke is
then
your middle daughter, right?
Brooke came along. Brooke is the
Okay.
middle daughter. And in fact, Brooke recently married last week. And
Congratulations. So
and
exciting.
Brooke and Kirk, congratulations to them. And Brooke is the marketing director at Avala
Right.
Health Systems in Covington.
Yeah. And we
So
were
she's
chatting
my.
offline. Our office is, I'm an injury attorney. And so all of my
Mhm.
clients, have traumatic injuries that result in the need for the type of services Avala provides. I've watched
Yes.
that clinic grow, or that hospital system grow, rather. And it's really
Mhm.
impressive what they've done because I've seen them just attract top flight talent from all
Yes.
over. And when I started my career as an
Mhm.
injury attorney 22 years ago, you know, we always had good doctors around here, but we didn't have every type of specialty. For example, there was no neurosurgeon in Hammond. If you needed neurosurgery, you couldn't get it at North Oaks and you couldn't get it anywhere else. You had to go to Baton Rouge or New Orleans. That was quite inconvenient. Well, Avala now brings kind of a world
Mhm.
class clinic to the North Shore, and
Mhm.
they've got spine surgeons, they've got, pain management doctors. I mean, anything you need, orthopedic, you name it. So she must be really talented because their marketing is top flight. And I know that must have been competitive to get. So good for Brooke.
Yes,
Exciting.
she is. She is, and she's my artsy one,
Yeah, right.
And
Well, she helped,
what's the
didn't she do the
next?
logo for our cancer care ministry, like the T-shirts
She
and stuff?
did.
Yeah,
She
that was really
did.
kind of her to
So when you
volunteer.
see the logo on the back of the shirt, Brooke did design that for me. So I'm lucky that I have her to do a lot of that,
That's
for our
cool.
cancer ministry.
Yeah.
And
And now we're gonna get to my favorite of your daughters, and maybe just because I know her the best and see her at church so often. And right
mhm.
now, she's blessed you with this beautiful grandson that you got to babysit today. So tell us about
Yes.
Jenna.
And Jenna's the baby, and Jenna is married to Austin, and they live here in Ponchatoula. And Jenna's a cosmetologist,
Mhm.
and she loves her work and she loves her clients.
And
And
she's so talented, but also so generous. I want to throw a shout out because when we start talking about the cancer care ministry, we'll talk about different services and aid we provide to people in their time of need. But Jenna's really stepped up big time and volunteer, to help these folks, whether it's cutting hair or just taking care of them and helping people really feel beautiful and get what they need in their toughest times. And I just thought that was so generous of her to do because she did that at a time when she's got a baby on the way, and of course, she and Austin are
yes,
young, and you don't see many people doing that kind of thing at that age. You raised her right. Good job, mom.
thank you. But she just has a heart for it.
Yeah.
Jenna worked for a time with my best friend over at one of the assisted living homes.
Oh,
And my best friend was kind of getting out of it, and Jenna was just
mhm.
getting into her career.
Yeah.
And she just said, "Hey, come work with me for a little bit, and I kind of want to turn this over to you for a while." And I think that that's, where she kind of got her love for, I guess, helping a lot
Yeah.
of elderly people. Or
She's got a real heart for it. And look,
yeah.
she's watching, Mom. She just put a comment. We're making her
Uh-oh.
blush. But
Hey,
she says she loves
girls.
you. Hey,
Hey.
Jenna. I hope
So,
you and your beautiful kiddos are doing well, and give our best to Austin.
mhm.
Denise Holland Lee is also on here to comment that she's enjoying this so much, and you're doing a
Oh.
great job, Kim. So Denise, thank you for chiming in.
Hi,
I,
Denise.
I want to use
Denise
this
went to high school with my
with.
husband, Lee.
Oh, neat. Okay, yeah,
Yes, they
neat.
were
Okay,
classmates. Yes.
very cool. Very
Yeah,
cool.
he thought the world of her. And
Well, well,
so,
if you don't mind, if you, I want to briefly just use
mhm.
Jenna and Denise and their kind comments as an invitation to anyone else who might be watching live. As you can see, we have the ability to post your comment live. So if you just want to say something nice, as these folks have done, fire away. Or if you have a question in a moment when we start talking about the cancer care ministry, you might have a question about when it is and where it is and what it is. Please post it. We want to share that. And I see here that Susan Cadwell, well, I might say that wrong. Let's say Susan Cox. I'll just get straight to the last name. She says that Kim is the best. You're right.
Is that Susan Battle? Yes.
Susan Battle Cox. Yes. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Um,
Susan has been through a battle with cancer herself, and I've enjoyed ministering with her and talking with her,
yeah.
and she's great. I love you, Susan.
Susan, we will keep you in our prayers. Yeah, I'm wearing pink here because I'm the son of two cancer survivors, my mom and dad. And while I have no idea what you've been through, I know it's tough on anyone who's fighting that battle, and nobody knows that better than Kim. And thank you for taking the time to watch and support this. You have such a gift for the people. I was out and about this week, and of course, we're confidential in who we minister to, and so I can't mention this person's name on TV, but that man in Pumpkin Center that you and I love and that we jointly
Yes.
minister to so much. Well, I saw his sister out and about, and she introduced herself to me. She said, "I just want to introduce myself. I'm so and so's sister," and it was magical. But they just love you, man. Every time I see him, he's like, "Don't stop
Oh,
asking about me." How's Kim? Kim. They just love you. Boy, now they're coming in like wild. Susan Cooper Wild says that you are an inspiration and a dear friend. How's that
she
make
is
you
a dear
feel?
friend.
That's gotta hit you, in a special way. And Miss Vicky Graham Allen, I love Miss Vicky and her beautiful family. She says she's enjoying this so much and she can't wait for the cancer care walk. So thank you for sharing that.
Yes.
And Susan will be at the walk. So Susan, thank you for sharing that.
Good. I can't
Why
wait
don't
to
we get
see
to it
all
now?
these.
So let's talk cancer care ministry.
Okay.
Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I interrupt your career talk? Let's get back to that. I'll promise folks I'll get to cancer care. That's why we're here, but I rudely interrupted Kim. You were still
It's fine.
working at the university when we last talked about your career.
At
Where'd
the
you go?
university. And one day a student came to me and needed help with their financial aid check. And, that's part of what I did. And I helped and we got that straight. And they said, "Hey, do you think you can help me with my math, my algebra?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I hadn't had algebra in a while. And I guess they thought with money that I just was good with math. So I said, "Listen, why don't you come by tomorrow afternoon and bring it by? Let's see what we can do." So I began helping them, and he would come by once or twice a week. And one day he looked up at me and he said, "Gosh, I wish you were my teacher." And God just put it in my heart at that moment that maybe I need to look at changing careers. And
Yeah, that's
so I ended
a
up doing
powerful
that.
sign.
I ended up doing that while I was at Southeastern, and I got certified to teach, went through the
Yeah.
alternate certification program. And then I began, my career teaching. Unfortunately, not long after that, my husband Lee became ill. and was diagnosed with cancer. And Lee, it was just a couple months that he lived after that diagnosis. And Amanda was in college away at Centenary in Shreveport. Brooke was a senior in high school. Amanda was a senior about to graduate college, Brooke. And then Jenna was only in 9th grade. She was only 14.
I mean, there's never a good age to lose your daddy you love, but that's a particularly hard one, man. That had to hurt.
And
I
so
know
it was tough. It was tough.
You and I have talked about that process, and how much you let share with us if you don't mind. I mean, because you talked earlier, your high school sweethearts, you get married at 18 and 19 years old. Because I know that you've thought about this so much, you minister to others. What words of encouragement do you have for families that might be in their darkest hour? When you think back to that time in your life, what are the keys that you think, because I know you minister one-on-one to folks that go through similar stuff, and everybody's story is different, but there are lessons to be learned that can help. And I guess my question is kind of, what lessons did you learn that you would feel comfortable sharing now? Because when you talk about the ages of your girls, it just hits me in the gut that just has to be the toughest thing in the world to go through. And, I know you guys now later, and while I'm sure that still hurts every day for all four of you, you're thriving in life, so how did you get from there to here? What lessons would you share?
Well, first, I was kind of a, in charge kind of person, a leader, and I thought I could do everything. And I quickly learned I couldn't. And had it not been for my church family, and we kind of had two church families at the time ministering to us, and
how was that? By that, do you mean your old Amite church family plus your Ponchatoula First Baptist, or
no?
What were the two families?
We attended Trinity Baptist Church. My girls grew up at Trinity Baptist.
Oh yeah, out there in Pumpkin Center. Yeah.
We grew up there, and we still have lifelong friends from there that I love and appreciate. In fact,
was
Susan
my buddy Philip Bankston was out there probably, huh? Was Philip in the church back then?
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
yes.
He and I went to school together. Good folks out there. Yeah.
And so, a lot of good
Great
folks.
Church.
And then when Jenna became friends with some of the youth, at First Baptist, when she got into junior high school, and kind of started going to their events. And by then the other two were older, and we just kind of migrated over, to First Baptist for some of the youth programs and things like that. And so I had those, both of those church families that, were checking on us. I would be gone for long periods of time with Lee in the hospital, and they would take care of my children. They would feed them. They loved on them. And honestly, by that time I was teaching at Ponchatoula High. And was it not for my high school family? It truly is a family of teachers there. They were wonderful to us. And no one should ever go through cancer alone. You can't do it alone. Right. You shouldn't have to do it alone. Right. And that's really a lot of the focus of our ministry. And then the hope. I still had hope all through that God was going to heal Lee. And, I even told people, I just knew he was going to stand up on that pulpit one Sunday and tell everybody, about his healing. But I've also learned through training and through things like this, most cancer patients don't really give up. They fight. And that's what we want them to do. And God sometimes, though, calls them up. So they don't necessarily give up, but God may call them up. And we don't always understand it or know the answer to that, but we just have to have faith and trust that he's done what's best for them.
Yeah.
And so, let your family, let your friends rally around you. Let them do for you. I had someone sit me down one time and say, you know, let them do, because you don't understand, it blesses them. It's a blessing to them to do for you. They're actually going to get as much out of it as you are, maybe even more.
That's one thing
And
I've learned through the cancer care ministry. It's 100%. You leave
yes.
these sessions and meetings and visits, if you will, just energized by the inspiration you get from watching someone be so strong and go through something, and it's absolutely rewarding. So if anybody's out there sitting on that fence thinking they might be interested in this, later we can talk about how to get involved. But I know from kind of the bottom rung of the cancer care ministry, Kim's leading us on top, and she's the expert who's been there from Jump Street. But from like the newer, I'm not in the most recent group, but I wasn't in the first group. It is the most rewarding thing I do, and that's tremendous. So let's talk about the ministry itself. So because this is a fairly unique concept. I know they exist. I now know through the training they exist all over the country, and there's a great program that you walked us through to get trained up to do this. But at least around here, it's a pretty novel concept. You don't see this in churches all over. But Dr. Cranford, who himself, has walked a life, seen many people he loved, lost to cancer, called up. He, had the vision with you to put this together. And now First Baptist Church of Ponchatoula has a cancer care ministry. Our Journey of Hope is what it's called. And you are our fearless leader. But tell us about that, if you don't mind, for folks that have never heard about cancer care ministry. Tell us about what it is and what we do.
Well, I want to say how grateful and thankful I am to Dr. Cranford, our pastor at First Baptist Church, for having the vision and for the support of the church, all of our members and administration. They're a great support for our ministry. And Dr. Cranford had, given me some ideas and said, check some of these training sessions out. And one of them was through Cancer Treatment Centers of America, but they're now called City of Hope. And they have treatment centers in Atlanta, Phoenix, LA. They have about 5 all through the US. And they felt like the needs of physical needs of cancer patients were being met, but spiritual needs and some emotional needs were not being met. And so they developed this program, to go in, because, for a lot of people, one of the things we learn is, a cancer diagnosis, you feel like it's a death sentence, and that is a time when people start to question their mortality.
Absolutely.
I have cancer now. What's going to happen to me?
And there's so many questions. I had a friend, get diagnosed with cancer last week, and the spectrum is so broad. And his doctor's like, beware of Google, because if you, on one end, he may be able to treat this with as little as aspirin. On the other end, Google's like, sayonara, man, it's over.
Yes.
And you're great. You've been through the emotions of that, but it's just it's so overwhelming for everyone involved: the patient themselves, the spouse if they have one, the caretakers, the children.
Yes.
Everybody's in that boat together, but they're in different points in it, and it's just it's totally overwhelming. And you said something profound earlier: no one should ever go through cancer alone.
No.
And of course, none of us are alone. God's here with us the whole
That's
time,
right.
whether we know
That's
it or
right.
not. But what a ministry like this does so well is help remind you of that fact and help keep you on track with that. Pray with you, read scripture with you, but then also do some really important practical stuff with you or for you. What I see is, hey, got to go to the city for your cancer care treatment, need a gas card. The cancer care ministry may be able to help with that. Need food, we're bringing you soup. We're bringing just need a card of inspiration. There's so many angles here where I think earlier you mentioned it's not just the spiritual, but it's the emotional. But it's both spiritual, but it's also practical what we do.
Yes.
So I found it to be just an incredible program. So if you don't mind, share with folks kind of what we do.
Okay. Well, I'm just looking at my numbers. We've had 133 patients so far.
Wow.
One of the things we do is we do provide snacks and things for chemo infusion patients over at the Ponchatoula Cancer Center in
Yeah.
Hammond. And I haven't mentioned this yet, but I'm a cancer survivor. I'm a
Right.
walking miracle is what I am. Praise God for that.
Amen.
But I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma back in 21, and I'm still going through treatment myself. So, when our program and our ministry started, I just wanted to see, what was out there locally. I wanted to go in, and I went over to the Ponchatoula Cancer Center, and I looked around and I said, "Oh, where's y'all snack bar?" And because where I had been getting treatment, man, it's all kind of snacks and drinks, and a
Right.
lot of times you may be sitting 6, 7, 8 hours for
Yeah.
an infusion. So anyway, they said, "Oh, we have crackers and water," and I said, "Oh, no, 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 that won't do." So we are now helping to provide snacks and drinks,
Mhm.
Gatorade, some Ensures, things like that, and for those patients. And it's been a blessing to do that. They really love it so much to be able to sit, and even the caregiver to have a little something while they're
Yeah.
sitting there, to snack on.
Absolutely.
And another thing is
And
we
you
have.
mentioned that, if you don't mind, I'll jump in. And that was
Mhm.
something, and you mentioned the support of Dr. Cranford, and he comes to all of our meetings. He's an active part of
Yes,
the team, but he
yes.
doesn't waver. When you come up with a bright idea like that, he's
Mhm.
like, "No problem, I'll fund it. Here's the credit card.
Mhm.
Go do it. We'll go find the money later." The church and the pastor have
Mhm.
really stepped up to make this happen. But please continue. I'm sorry I cut you off.
No,
I just
no,
want to
you're
give a shout
fine.
out to the church because those snacks aren't cheap. They
Yes.
don't come free.
That's right. And so we do appreciate that. And we also have some members of our ministry team that volunteer at Mary Bird Perkins in Hammond. And they greet patients. They sit with patients or caregivers. If someone wants prayer, they'll sit and pray with them. Honestly, part of this is just developing a relationship with that cancer patient and their family, caregiver, because that's what it's about. Whether the person has cancer or not, they're still the same person. They've
Right.
had a life, they've had a family, they have interest. They just want someone to sit with them, and we let them talk. Whatever they want to
Yeah.
talk about is what we talk about. We don't necessarily talk about cancer at all.
Right. Yeah.
Sometimes we do,
Sometimes
sometimes
it's
we
the
don't.
last thing they want to talk about, and you're there to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be, Halloween coming up, or baseball and the World
Mm-hmm.
Series, or whatever. But yeah,
Yes.
can I put another plug in on what we do? I want to give
Sure.
a shout out to Paul Halterman, because, and of course, so many people, too many lists, do great things for the ministry. But
Yes.
he has a gift. God blessed him with the ability to take wood and turn it into anything, a great pen you could write with, or whatever. But he makes these wonderful crosses. If you're familiar with the concept of a comfort cross, this is not one Paul made. Paul's are bigger and better than this. This is just a little one that I had from before that I keep. But it's a cross you hold in your hand when you pray. And his are probably 3 times the size of this. But he makes those and gives them to our patients. They're constantly little practical, but also spiritual gifts like that come through. And I just think it's so important. And part of what I love about the team is it is a collaborative team that's creative, and people are coming up with great ideas. I don't know if it was Debbie Norwood's idea, but she's the one who does it. Had the great idea to say, "Hey, they have all these flowers that get thrown away after funerals. How
Mm-hmm.
about we repurpose them and take a bouquet, and she can turn that into I don't know how many more bouquets, and the
Yes.
rest of y'all are
Right.
out scouting for bases all the time." And
Mm-hmm.
suddenly people are getting these beautiful flowers that would have otherwise ended up perhaps in a trash can.
Yes.
There's just so many creative, neat things, from people
Mm-hmm.
making homemade chicken noodle soup to just whatever. It's really neat. And you're really good, Kim, about spotting times during the year when a pick me up would be particularly meaningful, whether it's an upcoming holiday or just some kind of date of significance. It's been really neat to watch, and so thank you for doing that. Probably the biggest single event, maybe definitely the biggest single event yet, is coming soon, and we had talked about it earlier. This first ever Cancer Care Life Walk, which will be taking place at Kiwanis Park on November 2nd, beginning at 9:30 in the morning. I think it goes to 12:30. Is that
Yes.
right? Tell us about that event. What's that mean? What the heck is a Cancer Care Life Walk, and what should people expect?
I'm really excited about this. It's been a lot to plan, and I have to give a shout out to our ministry team. We have 30 members that have been trained to be in this cancer care ministry, and the training is about 8 weeks
Yes.
long. And they are great, and they've really, everybody's pitching in to make this a great event. So for the walk for hope, it's just coming together as those who are cancer survivors, who are still having treatment, in memory of those that God has called up that had a cancer diagnosis, and caregivers and supporters, friends that, meet the needs of cancer patients. It's amazing when you come together as a community and group and you network with other cancer patients. And
Mhm.
there's so much involved in the field of cancer. Cancer care now has come so far.
Yes.
And, you see people, you're not alone in this. We want you to know you're not alone. There's hope. And
Right.
we want to come together as a community to show support for all those that are fighting cancer. And I think it's going to be a great event. We're going to have jambalaya lunches.
Mhm.
We're going to have a
Hot
kids
dogs and
area.
hamburgers.
Yes, hot dogs and hamburgers. Thank you, Bree.
Yeah, my
And
brother Bree will be cooking. So if you've eaten his food
yes.
on the campaign trail, you know what you're in for there.
We're going to have a children's area. The
Mhm.
Ponchatoula High Art Club is going to come out and do face painting. We're gonna have the famous walk where we all,
Yeah.
line up and, we're gonna walk in support and in memory of those. And, you can walk as long as you want to walk or as short as you want to walk. I've had a
Right.
lot of people say, I can't walk very far. And I said, if all you want to take is 2 steps and then step back out, you're good.
Yeah.
So it's just to come together in support of cancer patients and their families. And
And that's a beautiful walk. I did, when the Relay for Life was going on in Hammond at Southeastern, I did that for years.
mhm,
One of basically my second mama, Paulette Poche, who, like my own mom, is a cancer survivor. She was involved with that. She was the registrar at the university.
mhm. I know Paulette.
Paul, y'all probably worked
Yes,
together.
we work
Yeah.
together.
Well, her family had been through that battle long before she got cancer. She had been through that battle with other family members.
Mhm.
But I love that event. It was a great one. But man, you were just out there in the heat, basically walking around in a circle with no shade. Kiwanis Park is a really dynamic location for
Mhm.
something like this because you have this track that's beautiful with oak trees all
Mhm.
around. So you're constantly dipping out of sun, but plenty of shade. You
Yes.
also have the benefit of the log cabin. The Kiwanis Club is
Mhm.
graciously, through the help of folks that are movers and shakers there, like Danny Williams and Stephanie
Mhm.
Stafford and many more. They're going to allow us to use it. So you have
Yes.
clean, cool bath if we need it, or warm if you need it, depending on the weather. Climate controlled bathroom facilities, tables
Mhm.
you can sit down at and rest at. Just
Yes.
makes it a lot more comfortable for folks that may be fighting things like chemotherapy and radiation and whatnot. There's a great playground. If you haven't seen it lately, it's been beefed up with new equipment. Shout out to our mayor, Wesley Daniels. He's doing a great job with facilities. So it's going to be really special. And then on top of that, we're bringing in other cool stuff. Dr. Cranford has gotten up with through, apparently the Baptist Church has this. What do they call it? It's got all these games and like kids stuff. And
Mhm.
you know what I'm talking about?
It's the block party trailer.
Yeah, the block party trailer is
Yes.
full of fun. North Oaks Health System. I sit on the North Oaks Foundation board. The North Oaks Foundation funded this mobile health center that North Oaks Hospital has now.
Mhm.
That's going to be there.
Yes.
All kinds of stuff. You can sign up to give blood. There's going to be a memory board for people that have been called on. Just so much good energy there.
Oh, and bring your cell phones, because we're going to have a little photo balloon area set up where
Oh,
you
that's
can,
cool.
with a little balloon arch, where you can
Yeah.
come and
Yeah.
take a picture with your family, or whoever you're coming to walk with in support of. So
Very
that'll be a
neat. Yeah.
little fun thing to do
So
too.
it's going to be a fun, positive day, and it's the first of its kind. I know tons of people have already signed up.
Yeah.
Some here on the Facebook page, but many more through the website that had a sign up page in the past. Um, if you don't mind, let's walk through this so people can know where they can find out more info, because we're throwing a lot at them. But you can see here, there's a Facebook event. This is through, I think, First Baptist Church of Ponchatoula's Facebook page. If you go on there, I think it's pinned to the top, very easy to find. Our Journey of Hope Cancer Care Ministry. You can see here an event is set up. So as you can see here, I've already clicked. I'm going. I'll be there as a member of the team. But if you want to, please check this out. We would love for you to click, say you're going, so that if we need to adjust our food count or whatever, we can do that. But feel free, and by the way, the link, our producer here, Danny Lynn Dennis, who herself has been a cancer caretaker, and knows much about this cause. She has shared a link in the comments of our Facebook video here today, so you can see here, Walk for Hope event details. Just go there, click through, and you'll find out much more. Kim, I promised you I would get you out of here at a decent hour, and I think I'm 1 minute and 17 seconds over. So I think I need to be landing this plane. I need to be bringing this down.
Yes.
And I'm sorry, we could talk about this for hours. And I've been
Yes,
so
we could.
inspired by your life story. Every time I see you at the head of our class leading our troops, I'm inspired by you. You are an amazing and wonderful woman. I'm proud to call you my friend. And hopefully I'll be able to get you back on the show later. We could talk about what a successful event this was and go into much more. But before we shut down for now, is there anything we haven't covered at all? Anything on your mind, anything on your heart that you want to share with our viewers and our listeners before we go?
Well, I'd personally like to thank all of you for the support that you've given to me. Many of those of you who have commented, your prayers they mean so much. And when I was, really going through the difficult stem cell transplant time, I felt your prayers, and I can tell you that's all that got me through it. That, and somehow God picked me up and carried me through. I don't know how I did it all. So prayer is so important. And I do just want to encourage you to pray for those loved ones that have cancer. Be there for them. Don't shy away from them. They need you. And again, you don't have to talk about their cancer. Just be whoever you were to them before they had the diagnosis. And don't forget the caregivers. There's a lot on their plate. Yeah. They're picking up medicine, they're making appointments, they're having to do all the regular daily chores, and they get tired. It's a lot. So,
and as we've learned from that man we were talking about in Pumpkin Center that we love so much, sometimes they're going through their own medical stuff.
That's
Maybe
right.
not cancer, but heart disease or something else. So,
yes,
that's a great point. Caretakers need their whole other level of support.
Yes,
and they're overlooked a lot of the times.
And if there's anyone out there that would like to contribute to our ministry, you can do so through First Baptist Church, but please, designate it as Cancer Care Ministry.
Yes.
Because we do a lot of things through donations, most of what we do. And, there's a lot of needs out there. There's so much. And like I said, we've ministered to over 100 people just in our community. You do not have to be a First Baptist Church member to receive services from the Cancer Care Ministry. Yeah. So
we are helping people, whether they're Catholic, Baptist, Methodist, or none of the above. We're there to serve folks, and I admire you for taking up this cause. And I thank you and Dr. Cranford for allowing me to play a very small part in it. And to our viewers and our listeners, thank you for sticking with us, even though we're about almost 4 or 5 minutes over here. We appreciate you sticking with us to the end. We will be back next week, same time, next place. Y'all take care.